So let's have a look at the mixer. If we press the mixer key, you can see the 4 channels or the 4 tracks and the levels associated with each one. These can be adjusted using the controls, so the track levels can be altered. If we press shift, then we can see that we can change the pan for each channel as well using the relative control. Also, when we're playing the track, you can see that the signal registers on the meters. If we press T2, we can then see the equalizer. This essentially is a 3-band equalizer, low, mid, high, and that can be adjusted using the controls again, or using the orange control, maximum EQ or clean. The third button gives us the master effects, and the fourth gives us the master output. One thing to point out on the master output is that there's a compressor type device that allows you to increase drive and release, to change the dynamics and work in a very basic compressor format to increase loudness. To get a bit better understanding of how the OP-1 is configured, and particularly understand how the effects and the LFOs and modulation operates, if we press shift and the mixer, we can see quite a good display of the routing for the synthesizer. If we look at this carefully, we can see the sequence is currently on. Now it's turned off. Pressing any key will indicate that the source is coming from the keyboard, in this case through the synthesizer, but that would show the drum engine if it's a drum, and then travels through the LFO and the effects. So essentially there's one LFO slot and one FX slot for each sound engine. Then we can move on to the tape deck and the mixing section, and again before we see any sound travel to the output, there is the option to add another effect or LFO at the output stage. Let's have a quick look at the modulation. In essence, there are 2 slots on each of the engines, the synth engine and the drum engine. If we actually go to the synthesizer and look at key 3 and key 4, key 3 is actually the effects slot and key 4 is the LFO slot. The same applies to the drum engine. Key 3 is an effects slot, key 4 is an LFO slot. To turn these on, we would just simply press the button again. So we press FX to bring the FX screen up, and press FX again, and you can see that the screen now shows the parameters for the effects slot. If we want to look at what effects are available, pressing Shift F3 shows us the selection, which in this case is delay, grid, phone, punch, spring. In the drum slot, it's actually the same in the synthesizer slot, and if we go to the mixer and have a look at the effects in the output stage, you can see that the same effects exist. So essentially there's an effects slot and an LFO slot in each of the synthesizer, drum engines, and also in the output stage. So we'll just have a quick run through what effects are available. Delay, you can adjust the feedback and the speed and the number of delay taps. We also have an effect called grid that allows us to change this 3-dimensional feedback mechanism for distortion. Phone, another distortion type effect which allows you to give a lo-fi type sound to your tunes. Punch, which is almost a compressor style dynamic driver, which gives it more punch, as it says, and also allows some frequency cutoff adjustments as a filter, and some distortion. Also we have spring, which is a reverb effect where you can adjust the number of turns, the dampening, and the effect level. You can also see that a number of envelopes exist. If we look on the synthesizer, key 2 selects the envelope, and then the parameters will control the attack, delay, sustain and release parameters. If we go on to the drum synthesizer, again key 2 selects the envelope. This time it's a different envelope that does allow you to change the dynamics and shape the sound. If we move on to the LFOs, again the same principle. If we press the button again, that switches the LFO on. If we press Shift and F4, we can see that the different LFO elements exist. Element, which is a singular low frequency oscillator, MIDI, random, tremolo and value. These can be quite creative when we're using them to modulate various parameters, certainly on the synthesizer or effects. I'll give some examples later in other tutorials.